Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Mr. Shank, coming to you live from Alameda International High School. And this video, we're still working through that semester 1 review, and we're on that page 3 now. Still working with some right triangles, and so that means anytime we have a right triangle, we can use these wonderful trig ratios. So we have SO, CA, TOA. Again, make sure you remind yourself its sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. We have cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And then lastly, we have tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. And so if we have word problems like this, we know what our picture has to be. It has to be a right triangle. So in this first one, it reads like this. It says you are standing 14 feet away from your high school, Alameda International. You look to the top of the building and measure an angle of elevation of 65 degrees. What is the height of that school? So some important parts to have with this, we have 14 feet away, so I can put a little star by 14 feet. We have angle of elevation, so I can box that in because that's a vocab word. And I can also say it's 65 degrees. And so what are we doing? We're looking for the height of the high school. So I can underline that as our objective. So I can draw a picture. Again, doesn't really matter what your right triangle looks like as long as you are labeling the sides correctly. So again, make sure you can take some time as you do this. Let's say we draw a right triangle like this. This is a triangle. Make sure it's a right triangle by having that right angle in a corner. So now this is a right triangle. Let's have our labels like this. So I can say, all right, let's have this as the school. So if this is the school building, again, you can make it as pretty as you want to. You're saying this is you right here. And we can say, all right, the angle that you're looking at to the top of the school, this angle in here is going to be 65 degrees. The reason why I know this angle is because I'm standing away from the building and I'm looking up. Again, angle elevation means looking up. And so we can say, all right, angle elevation 65 degrees. We are 14 feet away from the building, and we're looking to see how tall that school is. So we can label that as X. So now that we have our picture, it's just going to be a simple right triangle trig problem. So now we can use those same steps as we did on page number 2. So I have to label my sides of my right triangle. So I say across from the right angle is hypotenuse. I have my angle theta right there. Across from theta is our side opposite, so I'd say O for opposite, and I have this 14 feet is going to be adjacent. So now that I have my side labels, I have adjacent and opposite, so I'm going to use tangent. So that means I have tangent of theta is going to be opposite over adjacent. Substitute in your values for your variables, so I can say, all right, I have tangent of 65 degrees is going to be equal to opposite, which is X, and adjacent, which is 14. Make sure you can multiply both sides by the denominator. So again, I do that as my first step since I'm trying to get that X by itself. So I multiply both sides by 14. Multiply both sides by 14. Again, I use those parentheses, to show multiplication. So I have X is going to be equal to, let's have 14 tangent of 65 degrees. Type that into your calculator. So I have 14 tangent 65. Again, make sure you're in degrees because we're using degrees. Hit enter, and we can round to that nearest hundredth. So I have 30.02. And what are we talking about? Are we talking about cats, dogs, meters? We're talking about 30.02 feet. Just gonna make sure you have that label on there. All right, for the next one, looks like this. Let me read through it first, and then we can have some annotations to it. So it says, Yennefer is standing at the top of a cliff by the ocean. She sees a boat out on the ocean with an angle of depression of 8 degrees. If the cliff is 458 feet high, how far is the boat from the base of the cliff? So a lot of things going on here. Make sure we can go back and annotate. All right. So we're saying, all right, angle of depression, that means they're looking down. So that means they're looking down. So you can be careful. Anytime you have that angle of depression, you can draw the right triangle 2 different ways, but you have to be careful because that 8 degrees is going to help guide you with that picture. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. It says the cliff is 458 feet high, and they're standing at the top. So I guess that's another important thing. It's saying how far is the boat from the base? How far is the boat from the base? Okay, so I have the 2 things. Let me actually put a star next to the 8. So standing at the top, angle of depression, 8 degrees, 458. How far is the boat from the base? Okay. So if you want to use this 8 degrees, you'd have to draw your right triangle like this. It's going to be a little bit weird looking because of the setup. Angle of depression is going to be outside of that normal right triangle, but if you want to use that 8 degrees, it would be like this. I could say, okay, let me draw my right triangle. This is a triangle, this is a right triangle. And so we're saying, okay, if this is Yennefer and she's standing on the top here, they're looking down at 8 degrees. So that 8 degrees, they have to be, looking at the horizon, but they're looking down. So if that's the case, they're looking down at 8 degrees. However, we said that this is the top of the cliff. So, if you need to draw it out, we would say this is the cliff. And so they're looking down like that, and we'd say, how far is the base of the cliff? So even though the base is down here, we'd say at base, and we can have our boat out here because they're looking down, and this is the ocean. Here's the cliff, here's the boat, they're looking down, and we're saying, hey, this is gonna be that side that we're looking for, which if we want to use that 8 degrees, we would have to say that this is our side X. That means that this other side is going to be 458. The reason why this works is we know that with a rectangle, again, for right angles, and then we have opposite sides are equal. So we'd say, okay, even though the cliff is right here, over here across from it or opposite of it is going to be the same. So this would also be 458 feet. If you want to draw your picture like this, you certainly can. So similar idea. However, I can say, all right, I have my right triangle. We said that Yennefer is up at the top of the cliff. So this is the cliff up here. Make sure it's on screen. Yep, okay. This is the cliff. We said the cliff is 458 feet. The boat is out here. And this is the base. What is going to be this angle? What is going to be this angle amount here? Well, we said if we're looking out on the horizon and we're looking down at 8 degrees, that means that this remaining amount will be 90 minus 8. The reason why we get that is the following. We say that, hey, I know that this forms a right angle, and so we do 90 degrees minus 8 is going to be this remaining amount. So if you want to draw your triangle like this, you certainly could, but we would have to say this is going to be 82 degrees. So notice how, these pictures are similar, but they are set up differently. So we would say that, this is going to be 8 degrees with these labels. This is going to be 82 degrees with these labels. I can prove that this would work out by making sure the answers are the same. So again, let's have this. I like to use the angle that's in there, so I would have to draw it like this. I would say, okay, I have across from the right angle is hypotenuse. I have my angle theta as 8 degrees. Opposite of that is called opposite, and I'd say my side next to it is going to be adjacent. I have opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to say I have tangent of theta is going to be equal to opposite over adjacent. I'd have tangent of 8 degrees is equal to 458 divided by x. And make sure you can multiply both sides by the denominator. So I have x tangent of 8 is 458. And then I'd have to divide both sides by tangent of 8 to get my answer. So I'd say x is going to be equal to tangent, nope, it would be x equals 458 divided by tangent of 8, which is what value? So we'd say 458 divided by tangent of 8, which is pretty far. Okay, so it's going to be a large number. We have 3,258. And let's round to that second decimal place. We'll say 0.84. We'd say this is feet. Okay, how can I prove that this is my right answer? Well, I can do this. I can say, hey, I can set up my picture like this, and I would use a similar setup. I'd say, hey, I would say this is my angle theta as 82 degrees. I can't just plug it in the same way, because I would say, hey, if this is my angle theta as 82 degrees, the side opposite is now x, where this is going to be adjacent. So now we would say, all right, if I set up my picture like this, I would have to have tangent theta is opposite over adjacent. I have tangent of 82 degrees is equal to x over 458. Multiply both sides by 458. So I'd have x equals 458 tangent of 82. What I should get is the same exact value. So I should have 458 tangent of 82. I bet you it's going to be the same exact value. Boom, it is. So that way I know I'm right. So again, our answer is still 3,258.84 feet. Make sure you can draw either way. Please do ask questions on that if you have any trouble. Again, there's multiple options, but it's super simple as long as you draw it correctly. All right, and then last one. So that's if you're missing a side length. However, what happens if you are missing the angle? Just like before, make sure you can draw the picture first. So it says a tree is 15 feet tall and it casts a shadow that is 24 feet long. What is the angle of elevation of the sun? So we have it's 15 feet tall, the shadow is 24 feet long, and it says what is the angle of elevation of the sun. So we're looking for that angle, so make sure that your answer is going to be in degrees. So I'd say, all right, I have my right triangle. Let's draw it something like this. Oh man, that's kind of a rough one, but that's okay. I have my right triangle. Make sure it's in the picture. Okay, I can say, all right, my tree, something like this. It's not going to be the prettiest tree, but that's okay. This is our tree, which is 15 feet tall. Where is that shadow going to be? Well, even though it's casting that shadow like this, we would say, when we're looking and thinking logically, that shadow has to be on the ground. So the shadow is going to be on the ground, which is 24 feet. And if you're thinking about it, our angle of elevation, again, that has to be looking up. So we'd say this is going to be our angle theta. So again, make sure you can set it up like this, because that way it will give you what you need. Once you have your picture, make those labels. Across from the right angle is hypotenuse. Angle theta, across from angle theta is our side opposite, which is 15. And then our adjacent side is going to be 24. Once we have that, we can pick our ratio. I have O and A, so that means still going to use tangent. So I have tangent of theta, opposite over adjacent. Plug in my values. I'm looking for tangent, so that means I have to keep the theta how it is. Opposite is 15, and adjacent is 24. Make sure you can use that inverse trig function to get theta by itself. So I'd say theta is equal to tangent to -1. I have 15 over 24. Again, make sure you can type it in exactly as it looks. So I have second tangent. Again, notice how it has -1, saying our inverse inverse of tangent, or arctan. So at 15 over 24, get our value, and so we can say that's going to be 32 point, and then we'll go to the second decimal place. Make sure you can have degrees. So I'd say my angle of elevation is going to be 32.01 degrees. Again, if you're looking for a side length, make sure you just set up normally, multiply both sides by that denominator to get x by itself. If you're looking for the angle, make sure that you're using that inverse trig function. Be sure to ask questions, and as always, super slam that subscribe button.